Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spaceflight Now's live coverage of the latest mission from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. I'm Will Robinson Smith, reporter with Spaceflight Now. Good to have you with us here on this Friday night on the West Coast, just past midnight here on the East Coast. Hope you've all had a good, productive work or school week, whatever it may be for you, and maybe you're one of those lucky few for whom school hasn't started yet and you're enjoying the last little bit of summer. Whatever the week has had in store, we're glad to have you with us here for this live launch coverage ahead of the flight of a Falcon 9 rocket on the Starlink 17-7 mission. SpaceX is currently fueling its Falcon 9 rocket at Space Launch Complex 4 East ahead of a planned liftoff at 9:59 p.m. Pacific, 12:59 a.m. Eastern, 04:59 UTC for our friends joining around the world. As we're getting things rolling here on this mission coverage, if you haven't already, you could do us a big favor just by clicking that like button beneath the video, sharing the stream, allowing some more folks to find their way into this live launch coverage tonight. Taking a peek into the live chat, I see we've got Mark Otto, Jeff Hansen on board with us this evening. Appreciate you both hanging out with us. You can help make the moderators' lives that much easier just by following the rules of the live chat. We ask that you converse in English so that our moderators can respond as appropriate. Also, that you do not delve into overt politics or religion, and refrain from using all caps. Emojis are perfectly fine, but we ask that you don't post a huge block of them all at once so it blocks up the live chat and others from having their voices heard. And most important, that you treat each other with the kindness and respect that you yourself would like to be treated. And we'll all get along swimmingly. This and every other live launch opportunity are made possible in no small part by the ongoing support of our wonderful channel members here on YouTube. So thanks to folks like Gory Gray, Norman Reitzel, Cumulus Granatus, Penelope L. Gross, Kenneth Urbanek, Frank American, and many others. Debris, good evening to you. Channel membership comes with a number of perks, including discounts at our online shop, which is shop.spaceflightnow.com. Access to our members-only videos here on YouTube, access to our members-only Discord server, and of course the ability to watch all of our live launch liftoff moments from here in Florida in 4K. One question I see jumping out at me in the chat, asking if there will be a sonic boom after liftoff. Not in the same way that you would hear if there was a return to landing site touchdown for the first stage booster. You may, if you're in the vicinity of Vandenberg, hear the rumble of the 9 Merlin engines at liftoff, but nothing so succinct as a sonic boom, more than likely. Also, with the trajectory of today's mission, this one is a southerly as opposed to a southeasterly trajectory. So, as the rocket, if it were hugging the coast, some folks may hear a sonic boom in that circumstance, but it's going pretty much right away from California, so it's not very likely with today's mission heading to a polar orbit. A good question. Also, let us know in the live chat where you are watching from. See, we've already had a couple folks chime in on their location tonight. See, we've got California, Nottingham, Maryland. Some folks up in Arizona, Northern California, Arizona. Given the hour, and if it's not too cloudy in your neck of the woods, you may catch a good glimpse of the Falcon 9 rocket as it climbs uphill. Be sure to tag us on social media if you're able to see the rocket. We're at most places simply at Spaceflight Now. Speaking of, our Spaceflight Now editor, Stephen Young, is running the technical operations of the broadcast tonight. Last little bit of housekeeping with about 24 and a half minutes remaining on the clock. If you have a comment or question about this mission or other goings on in the realm of space or spaceflight, or just want to offer a little bit of support this evening, like Michael Cisneros did, you can use the YouTube Super Chat feature. And not only will he be giving us some interesting things to talk about as we cruise on through the count, but you'll also be supporting what we do here at Spaceflight Now, and that, my friends, is always greatly appreciated. So I want to thank Michael Cisneros for a very generous $20 super chat. Thank you, Michael. Also, thanks to Steven Strickland for a $5 super chat. Sosos DL BKH, thank you as well. And thanks to Gilbert Goobies Castro. Always a fun name. Thank you for the $2 super chat. Really appreciate that from all of you. Also want to thank channel member moderator Rick Donner for gifting 10 Spaceflight Now memberships, helping to grow our community that much more. So to our newest 10 gifted members, welcome aboard. Glad to have you with us. Also want to welcome in Carlos Tellez and Gene Minster, both joining with membership at the Pad Leader level. Welcome in to both of you. $23 remaining on the clock. I want to thank channel member and moderator Jeff Hansen for a $10 super chat. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff says, go Vandy, go SpaceX, go Falcon 9, go Starlink, Godspeed 1082. 1082 is the number of the first stage booster that is flying today's Starlink mission. This particular booster is looking to launch for a 15th time today, after making its most recent flight about 42 days ago. We'll talk more about its flight history here in just a moment. Well, with about 22 minutes remaining on the clock, let's take a beat and talk about the countdown timeline, the milestones that we've already passed through at this point of the countdown and what is still ahead. SpaceX launch director made their call on the start of prop load, of course. Fueling began at the T-minus 35-minute mark with the loading of RP-1, a rocket-grade kerosene aboard the Falcon 9's first and second stages. At the same time, liquid oxygen began flowing on board the Falcon 9's first stage. T-minus 30 minutes is when they started to load a cryogenic helium onto the pressure vessels for the Falcon 9's first stage. Same was true on the second stage a few minutes thereafter. That helium is important because it's used to pressurize the main propellant tanks during flight. T-minus 23 minutes is when second stage RP-1 loading wrapped up. And T-minus 20 minutes and 50 seconds, our next upcoming milestone. That's when the strong back chill down process gets underway. SpaceX is, at this point in the count, thermally conditioning the feed lines there at the pad ahead of loading liquid oxygen on board the second stage of the rocket. Had we eyes on the vehicle at this point of the count, we would be seeing the so-called big vent. Good visual indication of this chill down process. Second stage LOX load will begin at the 16-minute mark. Moving right along, 7 minutes before flight, the chill down of the 9 Merlin engines begins. This is SpaceX flowing a small amount of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and turbo pumps, helping to protect those engines from the risk of thermal shock and damage during startup. 6 minutes before takeoff, the first stage kerosene tank should be full. Then at T-minus 4.5 minutes, we'll see the strong back retract sequence begin. First, the clamp arms just beneath the payload fairings open up, and then the transporter erector, otherwise referred to as the strong back, will recline away from the Falcon 9 rocket about 13 degrees away from the vehicle. here at Vandenberg. Once this retraction is done, the strong back will stay in this position up to and through liftoff. 3 minutes before takeoff, the first stage liquid oxygen tank reaches flight levels. Same is true on the second stage about a minute afterwards, at which point the Falcon 9 rocket is fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. In the final 60 seconds, as we hear the call that the Falcon 9 is in startup, control of the countdown is handed over from the ground sequencer to the Falcon 9's onboard flight computers, and at the same time, the propellant tanks are brought up to flight pressure. SpaceX launch director gives their go for liftoff 45 seconds before T0. The engine ignition command is issued at T minus 3 seconds, and if all 9 Merlins are healthy and ignite as expected, the command for the hold down clamps will be given for their release at T0. Coming up in T minus 18 minutes, 48 seconds and counting for our launch time of 9:59 p.m. Pacific, 12:59 a.m. Eastern, 04:59 UTC. Taking a look at our live chat here, I want to thank Michelle Penland for a $2 super chat, one of our wonderful channel members. Michelle says, Happy Labor Day weekend, Spaceflight Now and friends. And yes, here in the United States, it is the start of the Labor Day holiday weekend, so certainly hope that everyone who's able to enjoy the full breadth and depth of the 3-day weekend does something relaxing and, of course, celebrating the workforce here in the United States in whatever form makes sense for you and your family. Rick Donner with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Rick. Very kind of you. Who says, let's get this party started. Going to be an interesting September. It is going to be an interesting September, Rick. And we're looking at a number of good launches, some interesting potential for launches. Of course, one of the big ones that is technically on the board right now, but we'll have to wait and see how things really materialize, is September 29th is the most recent planned date for the launch of Blue Origin's second New Glenn rocket. That's carrying the pair of satellites for the Escapade mission from NASA. The satellite's built by Rocket Lab, carrying science payloads from University of California, Berkeley. Before we get there, though, we've got another Atlas V launch on the board as well. That's set to carry up the next batch of Kuiper satellites on behalf of Amazon. ULA just announced that launch date, looking at September 25th for that. A couple days before that, though, we have the scheduled launch for NASA's IMAP, the Interstellar Mapping and Acceleration Probe, which, for those of you who have not had a chance to check out our article up on the website, spaceflightnow.com, my colleague John Pisani and I were lucky enough to have an opportunity to head into the clean rooms where the IMAP spacecraft, alongside its rideshare payloads, NASA's Carruthers Geocorona Observatory, and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Space Weather Follow-on Lagrange 1 satellite, are being prepared and going through their final checkouts before being integrated onto their payload adapter and then wrapped up in those fairings and brought out to Launch Complex 39A for their September 23rd launch. Also got a Northrop Grumman Cygnus spacecraft heading up, the first extended Cygnus that's getting ready to launch to the space station, that can carry significantly more cargo than its predecessor. first Cygnus in a while, which, of course, was not always going to be the case, but the Cygnus spacecraft for the NG-22 mission was damaged in transport to the Kennedy Space Center, and so there was a bit of schedule shuffling for the ISS. Some missions were pulled up a little bit ahead of their planned slot, including the NG-23 mission, which was set to fly originally a little bit later this year, but is now heading up to the station again with a liftoff looking no earlier than September 15th. Amid all that, we're going to be heading back out to the Johnson Space Center around the third week of the month. Some exciting things for new faces around the NASA workforce. NASA set to announce its next astronaut class, as well as offer some pretty thorough briefings on the upcoming Artemis 2 missions. So look for our coverage coming from those two events in the days and weeks to come following that pocket of days. It's going to be the 22nd, whatever that Monday is. Yes, the 22nd is when the new astronaut class is announced, and then there'll be some public briefings that'll be streamed live on the 23rd and 24th. So that third week in, or really the fourth full week in September is going to be pretty jam-packed. And then, of course, there's plenty of Starlink satellite missions strewn throughout the month of September, as always. So given all the excitement that's coming up next month, if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, now is a great time to hit that subscribe button. It's a free and easy way to support what we do here at Spaceflight Now. And then for those who would like to go above and beyond, if you hit that join button for ongoing sustained membership for the perks that I mentioned earlier, that is also quite welcome and much appreciated. Of course. Taking a look at the weather outlook today, some thin high clouds over the spaceport, which you can just see start to pop up at the end of this weather loop. Looking at the satellite data from the GOES West spacecraft, courtesy of NOAA, who we were just talking about. Less than 12 minutes remaining on the clock at this point, but looks like very good potential for viewing this launch from the central to southern California areas, and of course, its neighboring states as well. As we're getting ready to see this Falcon 9 rocket launch, let's also take a moment and talk about the trajectory with a little bit more detail. Here's a live satellite view of Space Launch Complex 4 East, the departure point for this particular Falcon 9 rocket today. As we mentioned, once it does leave Vandenberg, Falcon 9 will fly in a southerly trajectory, with the first stage booster targeting a drone ship landing on the vessel known as, of course, I Still Love You. A good landing on this particular drone ship. It would be the 147th good touchdown on this particular drone ship of SpaceX's. It would also be the 496th booster landing to date, if all goes well. SpaceX is working on certifying its boosters for up to 40 missions. Of course, we just saw the flight leader, B-1067, have a good liftoff and landing from here in Florida. It was the first booster to hit that 30 flight mark. As I mentioned earlier, booster B-1082 is flying for its 15th time. SpaceX also wanting to certify its payload fairings for up to 40 flights apiece as well. Following their re-entry through the atmosphere, they will make their final splashdown in the waters of the Pacific Ocean, a little bit further downrange from where the booster lands on the drone ship. They'll make their final aquatic entrance under the support of steerable parachutes. Once down in the water, they'll be brought aboard one of these recovery vessels of SpaceX, brought back through port, and then onto Vandenberg, where they will be refurbished and turn around for future flights. Just about 9 minutes to go at this point in the count. We're roughly 2 minutes away from the start of the engine chill sequence. Taking a look back at our live chat here, want to welcome in new member Bill Angel, joining us in membership at the pad leader level. Welcome in, Bill. We're glad to have you with us. Richard Nichols, thank you for the $5 super chat, who says, thank you. I enjoy watching. Michelle Penland, been a member with us now for 4 months at the pad leader level, who says, go SpaceX, go Falcon 9. And Carl Wilburn, also with a $5 super chat, who says, hello, everyone. At work in Torrance with 92 others. We're not sure if we'll get a sighting, but hopeful. And we are hopeful on your behalf. Just under 7.5 minutes now on the clock. Talking about the payload that's on board this particular Falcon 9 rocket. A stack of Starlink V2 mini satellites are on tap today, 24 in total. This represents the 76th mission for SpaceX this year, during which it'll launch primarily Starlink satellites. There have been a couple where they weren't exclusively all Starlinks. We saw the Starlink 13-1 and 13-4 mission that both featured a pair of Starshield satellites, the government-focused variant of the Starlink satellite. The version of the Starlink V2 mini satellite SpaceX is flying these days are the optimized version, considerably lighter, as you can see in the current weight versus the previous V2 minis. With their solar panels unfurled, they have a wingspan of about 100 feet or 30 meters tip to tip. They use argon Hall effect thrusters for in-orbit maneuvering. They were built up in Redmond, Washington, which is near Seattle. And these satellites will be deployed at about 174 miles or 281 kilometers in altitude at a 97-degree inclination. Now, just under 6 minutes to go. At this point, the first stage kerosene tank should be full. We're coming up on the point at which SpaceX is going to be pressurizing the systems for strong back retract. We should hear a call out for that process just beginning, that pressurization, a little past the 5-minute mark. At that point, we should also be getting a visual on the Falcon 9 there at Vandenberg.
Falcon 9 tanks are pressing for the start of strong back lower.
Just under 5 minutes to go at this point, and you can see pretty clear views of the Falcon 9 rocket standing tall at Space Launch Complex 4 East there at Vandenberg Space Force Base. Today's
Strong back
flight
lower has started.
from this location represents SpaceX's 144th launch from this particular pad and the 212th orbital flight from Space Launch Complex 4 East as well. You can just make out through the vapor there. The clamp arms are opened up. And there goes the strong back, pulling back roughly 13 degrees away from the vehicle. And again, this strong back, the older version, it'll stay in its reclined position of about 13 degrees away from the rocket up to and through liftoff. With roughly 3.5 minutes left on the clock, I want to thank the more than 6,000 of you who are watching along with us live. If you haven't already, you could do us a big favor just by hitting the like button beneath the video, allowing some more folks to find their way into this live launch coverage.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
Good call there. We're now waiting a similar call regarding the LOX tank on the rocket's second stage. That should be coming at about the 2-minute mark. Before we hit that point, though, I want to thank channel member Wolverine Warlord for being a member with us now for 23 months at the launch director level. Wolverine says the tour of the Space Center Houston is amazing. Mission Control VIP tour is epic. You get to go on the floor of the original Mission Control for the Apollo missions and can see the live Mission Control working with the International Space Station, which is very cool. Ironically, I've now been to the Johnson Space Center more than a handful of times on reporting trips. Still have not made it to Space Center Houston. The days have always just been too busy to take some leisure time out there. But it is on the bucket list.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
And with that call, the Falcon 9 rocket is now fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. Momentarily, we'll see an extra bit of venting as the ground gas closeouts. You can actually start to see it there,
Gas
billowing
launch
up.
closeouts.
And this is SpaceX venting out the remaining liquid oxygen from the feed lines ahead of flight. Quickly want to thank Mark for a $2 super chat and welcome in new channel member Matt joining us at the pad leader level.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
LD is go for launch.
T-minus 30 seconds.
With that good go for launch call, we're going to step back on our commentary and listen along with you. We'll be back with you on the other side of liftoff.
T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff. Go SpaceX, go Starlink.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
MWD chamber pressures are nominal.
Power and telemetry nominal.
A good ascent to the Falcon 9 rocket so far, coming up on a minute into flight.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
Traveling faster than the speed of sound, the rocket is approaching max Q, the point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle.
Max Q.
Now through the thickest part of the atmosphere, the Falcon 9 rocket will throttle up on those 9 Merlin engines. Momentarily, we should hear a call out for MVac chill, the thermal conditioning of the Merlin vacuum engine on the rocket's second stage.
MVac chill has started.
There's that good call. We're now approaching a few events in fairly rapid succession. First, we'll see main engine cutoff on the booster, MECO. That'll be followed by stage separation and then the ignition of that Merlin vacuum engine at about T plus 2 minutes and 36 seconds into the flight. The payload fairings currently encapsulating the Starlink satellites will be jettisoned just about at the 3-minute mark.
MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVac ignition.
All good callouts, good visuals as well from the onboard cameras. As you see the hypersonic grid fins extending, the payload fairing jettison is coming up next.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Now a little more than 4 minutes into the flight, all progressing nominally by all accounts. Coming up on our next milestone in less than 2 minutes, that'll be the start of the first stage entry burn, when SpaceX will use 3 out of the 9 Merlin engines at the base of the booster to dramatically slow that stage down. You can already see with the telemetry data on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, this particular first stage booster starting to make its descent towards the drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. There's a good comparison of where the second stage is in relation to the booster stage. in the future part of that trajectory. You can see in the gray arc near the top of the left-hand box on your screen. The entry burn will last less than 30 seconds in duration, and that'll set the stage for the start of the single-engine landing burn about a minute after the entry burn wraps up. Closer to a minute and a half after entry burn, actually. Coming up on the start of the entry burn in a few seconds.
Stage 1 entry burn startup. Entry burn shutdown.
And with the conclusion of the entry burn, we are now looking to the start of the landing burn, which is set to begin in roughly 1 minute, shortly before the T+8 minute mark in this
Stage 1
flight.
FTS is saved.
That call, the flight termination system for the booster, has been safed. Safety mechanism no longer needed at this stage in the flight. Roughly 30 seconds to the start of
Stage
that
1
single
transonic.
engine landing burn.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And a good touchdown of B-1082. This was the 15th flight of this particular booster. Some of its more notable flights previously included USSF-62, which was the launch of the Weather System Follow-On Microwave Satellite, the Department of Defense. Batch of OneWeb satellites for the OneWeb constellation. And the NROL 145 mission, a series of Starshield satellites that launched back in April of this year. And with the upper stage concluding its first burn, it now goes into a coast phase at this point in the mission. And it'll cruise until about T+53 minutes and 44 seconds. At that point, there will be a roughly 1 second burn to help circularize the orbit. And then the Starlink satellites will be deployed at T+1 hour, 2 minutes, and 36 seconds post liftoff. Speaking of, with a good liftoff and a good landing of this first stage booster, we'll turn to our mission stats here in just a second, but do want to thank a few more folks for your support this evening. Thanks to Mariana, Texas, been a member with us now for 2 months, who says, hello, space fans. Happy Labor Day weekend, watching from Houston. Lucinda Miles, another one of our channel members, says, bummed not to get to watch it live in Central Valley. Hopefully next time. Nathan D with the $5 super chat. Thank you, Nathan. Matt back again with the $10 super chat, who says, this is Sprig watching from a paddle boat in the middle of Lake Village, Temecula, California. Go SpaceX, go Sprig, go Gerb. Michelle Penland with another $2 super chat, who says, thank you, Spaceflight Now. Thank you for your support tonight. Deb with a $10 super chat as well. Thank you, Deb. And I am Lita, another one of our wonderful channel members, with a $5 super chat, who says, great to see you all. Thanks again, Spaceflight Now. Thank you, Lita. Good to see you as always this evening. Turning now to our mission stats with a good liftoff and landing of B-1082. As mentioned, this is the 15th flight of that particular first stage booster. This marked the 524th Falcon 9 rocket launch to date, the 107th of the year so far. This is SpaceX's 158th orbital launch within the last 365 days, the 144th orbital flight from Slick 4 East, and the 212th overall orbital launch from this pad as well. Here's a look at our bar chart here for SpaceX missions year over year. Moving on to some recovery stats. This landing that you just saw was the 147th good touchdown on the drone ship, a short fall of gravitas. Or excuse me, of course I still love you. That was the 402nd drone ship landing and the 496th Falcon booster landing overall. Finally, with some industry stats, tonight's mission was the 39th orbital launch from California, the 113th from U.S. soil, the 125th from U.S. Rocket Company, and the 195th orbital launch around the world. There have been 5 orbital launch mishaps so far. Here is where our pie chart now currently stands. And as a reminder, we do have one more Falcon flight for you before this holiday weekend is done. Looking to the launch of Starlink 10-14 from Space Launch Complex 40 here at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Sunday morning flight of that booster, currently set to lift off at 7:19 a.m. Eastern, 11:19 UTC. So we certainly hope you are able to join us for that mission. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and that way you'll be notified when next we are ready to go live with that launch and all others coming up after that. I want to thank Irene Allen for hitting it at the buzzer there with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Irene, for saying thanks for the great coverage. Appreciate the kind words. I want to thank our moderators in the chat, Jeff Hansen, Mark Otto, Rick Donner, for helping us out today. Appreciate all of you for being with us and for helping to keep things kosher in the live chat. I want to thank our Spaceflight Now editor, Stephen Young, who's been running the technical operations of the broadcast tonight as well. Most importantly, though, thanks to you for wherever you're watching from. Hope you all, once again, those in the United States who have a 3-day weekend ahead of you, I hope it is wonderful, restful. Break out the barbecue and enjoy a good pool day or whatever you have in store. Be happy, be safe, and be well. And for all of us here at Spaceflight Now, I'm Will Robinson Smith, and we will see you next time, folks. And until then, bye-bye.